Hello, and welcome back to our reading session on the book of Daniel Goleman, Emotional Intelligence. Page 11. Under Aristotle Challenge. Why this exploration now? The last decade, despite its bad news, has also seen an unparalleled burst of scientific studies of emotion. Most dramatic are the glimpses of the brain at work, made possible by innovative methods such as new brain imaging technologies. They've made visible for the first time in human history what has always been a source of deep mystery: exactly how this intricate mass of cells operates while we think and feel, imagine and dream. This flood of neurobiological data lets us to understand more clearly than ever how the brain's centers for emotion move us to rage or to tears, and how more ancient parts of the brain, which stir us to make war as well as love, are channeled for better or worse. This unprecedented clarity on the workings of emotion and their failings bring into focus some fresh remedies for our collective emotional crisis. I have had to wait till now before the scientific harvest was full enough to write this book. These insights are so late in coming largely because of the place of feeling in mental health life has been surprisingly slighted by research over the years, leaving the emotions a largely unexplored continent for scientific psychology. Into this void has rushed a welter of self-help books, well-intentioned advice based at best on clinical opinion, but lacking much, if any, scientific basis. Now science is finally able to speak with authority to these urgent and perplexing questions of the psyche at its most irrational, to map with some precision the human heart. This mapping offers a challenge to those who subscribe to a narrow view of intelligence, arguing that IQ is a genetic given that cannot be changed by life experience, and that our destiny in life is largely fixed by these attitudes. That argument ignores the more challenging question: what can we change that will help our children fare better in life? What factors are at play? For example, when people of high IQ flounder and those of modest IQ do surprisingly well. I would argue that the difference quite often lies in the abilities called here emotional intelligence, which include self-control, zeal, and persistence, and the ability to motivate oneself. And these skills, as we shall see, can be taught to children, giving them a better chance to use whatever intellectual potential the genetic lottery may have given them. Beyond this possibility looms a pressing moral imperative. These are times where the fabric of society seems to unravel at ever greater speed, when selfishness, violence, and a meanness of spirit seems to be rotting the goodness of our communal lives. Here, the argument for the importance of emotional intelligence hinges on the link between sentiment, character, and moral instincts. There is growing evidence that fundamental ethical stances in life stem from underlying emotional capacities. For one, impulse is the medium of emotion. The seed of all impulse is a feeling bursting to express itself in action. Those who are at the mercy of impulse, who lack self-control, suffer a moral deficiency. The ability to control impulse is the base of will and character. By the same token, the root of altruism lies in empathy, the ability to read emotions in others. Lacking a sense of another's need or despair, there's no caring. And if there are any two moral stances that our times call for, they are precisely these: self-restraint and compassion. Our journey. In this book, I serve as a guide in a journey through these scientific insights into the emotions, a voyage aimed at bringing greater understanding to some of the most perplexing moments in our own lives and in the world around us. The journey's end is to understand what it means and how to bring the intelligence to emotion. This understanding itself can help to some degree. Bringing cognizance to the realm of feeling has an effect something like the impact of an observer at the quantum level in physics, altering what is being observed. Our journey begins in part 1 with new discoveries about the brain's emotional architecture that offer an explanation of those most baffling moments in our lives when feeling overwhelms all rationality. Understanding the interplay of brain structures that rule our moments of rage and fear, or passion and joy, reveals much about how we learn the emotional habits that can undermine our best intentions, as well as what we can do to subdue our more destructive or self-defeating emotional impulses. Most important, the neurological data suggests a window of opportunity for shaping our children's emotional habits. The next major stop on our journey, part 2 of this book, is in seeing how neurological given play out in the basic flair for living called emotional intelligence. Being able, for example, to rein in our emotional impulse, to read another's innermost feelings, to handle relationships smoothly, and as Aristotle put it, the rare skill to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way. Readers who are not drawn to neurological detail may want to proceed directly to this section. This expanded model of what it means to be intelligent puts emotions at the center of aptitudes for living. Part 3 examines some key differences this aptitude makes, how these abilities can preserve our most prized relationships, or their lack corrode them, how the market forces that are reshaping our work life are putting an unprecedented premium on our emotional intelligence and for on-the-job success, and how toxic emotion put our physical health at as much risk as does chain smoking, even as emotional balance can help protect our health and well-being. Our genetic heritage endows each of us with a series of emotional set points that determines our temperament, but the brain circuitry involved is extraordinarily malleable. Temperament is not destiny. As part 4 shows, the emotional lessons we learn as children at home and at school shape the emotional circuits, making us more adept or inept at the basics of emotional intelligence. This means that childhood and adolescence are critical windows of opportunity for setting down the essential emotional habits that will govern our lives. Part 5 explores what hazards await those who, in growing to maturity, fail to master the emotional realm, how deficiencies in emotional intelligence heighten the spectrum of risks, from depression or a life of violence to eating disorders and drug abuse. And it documents how pioneering schools are teaching children the emotional and social skills they need to keep their lives on track. Perhaps the most disturbing single piece of data in this book comes from a massive survey of parents and teachers and shows a worldwide trend for the present generation of children to be more troubled emotionally than the last, more lonely and depressed, more angry and unruly, more nervous and prone to worry, more impulsive and aggressive. If there is a remedy, I feel it must lie in how we prepare our young for life. At present, we may leave the emotional education of our children to chance, with ever more disastrous results. One solution is a new vision of what schools can do to educate the whole student, bringing together mind and heart in the classroom. Our journey ends with visits to innovative classes that aim to give children a grounding in the basics of emotional intelligence. I can foresee a day when education will routinely include inculcating essential human competencies such as self-awareness, self-control, and empathy, and the arts of listening, resolving conflicts, and cooperation. Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle's philosophical inquiries into virtue, character, and the good life. His challenge is to manage our emotional life with intelligence. Our passions, when well exercised, have wisdom. They guide our thinking, our values, our survival. But they can easily go awry, and do so all too often. As Aristotle saw, the problem is not with emotionality, but with the appropriateness of emotion and its expression. The question is, how can we bring intelligence to our emotion and civility to our streets and caring to our communal life? That is the end of the first introduction of the book, being the Aristotle Challenge, the preface. Up next, we're going to be going into part one,